Hi guys, I got back on here. I'm not going to do any tarot readings though until later, or you can sign up for one on my website. The reason why is because I was doing the tarot readings, and whenever I do the tarot readings or do anything in my life, I'm constantly getting messages. And one of the messages that I keep getting is that I need to utilize my story of how I got where I'm at into what I'm doing. But I have hesitated, I not wanting to, and the reason why is because I don't like making other people look bad for anything that's happened, and because I don't want to be the cause of someone judging someone else. Also, I made a video earlier today about the stories because when I was telling this story, a lot of times I text the stories to myself, like write them down in my notepad, just ideas so I know what I'm talking about or going or whatever. And I got this nauseous feeling, and I was wondering why. And I realized it's because, and I haven't really tried to tell it or write it down recently at all, okay? I like to move past things, and anyway, so what I realized is that I was telling the story, the way I told the story was out of weakness, like a victim. Because if you look at my story and the way that most of the world tells the story, we tell it like we're a victim to life. And that is a lot of what has a lot to do with what contributes to the future that we see unfold, and why we repeat our patterns over and over and over again. And so I made this video then about how to tell a story of your life in a different way. And so I'm gonna attempt to do that. If I can without writing it down. Okay, so basically, if you have any questions, though, ask, because that'll help me continue. But so I would say that I went through, you could call it the dark night of the soul. I also experienced spiritual emergency, if you were to look up terms for what I went through. But it was over years. And I've still been experiencing it up until this summer. And really, it's only been like the last few weeks where I've felt I would say enlightened, but I don't think that's the end. Does that make sense? Because if some of you don't know, I am currently homeless. My second job was doing DoorDash and Grubhub, besides TikTok and YouTube and tarot readings. And my car broke down for the 4th time. And so then I didn't have a place to go and I didn't have a car. And so I found a place to go, but I can't have my kids with me. So there's just a lot. That's the thing, is you hear those stories and you think, we hear those stories just like, as the way the world works. And we think, we feel bad for these people that have to go through different types of hardships, right? We feel sorry for them, bad for them, or even sometimes people, depending on what it is, you can pity them. And what I realized, and I know I use Bible stories a lot. I'm not even religious or anything like that, but I used to have like the Bible memorized. So I know all these stories and I see these other meanings that I've never heard anyone talk about, okay? But Jesus Christ in the Bible, he tells his story like the story is told in such a genius way. Hello. So, because we see that he was betrayed, he was tortured, he was killed, and we don't sit there and look at him like he was like we don't look at, oh, you poor thing. Because he used his story as his empowerment, as his, like a necessity to have like eternal life, right? So he used the things that happened to him as a necessity for the power that he had, okay? And so what I'm saying is that when we look at the things that we've gone through in life, instead of looking at them, because what we're doing is we look at them like, why did I have to go through this and this and that and this and that and suffer all these things, right? And we feel like something happened to us, like it was negative or something. I don't know how to explain the feeling, but like the victim consciousness, okay? Instead of looking at it like this thing that I experienced was something that was necessary for my being to be able to transform into what I am. Like basically it's like, if you were to look at yourself, say if there was the beginning and the end of time, okay? And like if you think of everything as one, being one in the beginning and one in the end, then life would basically be the process, kind of like from the seed to the flower, okay? And the whole time the flower is growing, it doesn't look at itself like a victim. Like when it's breaking through the dirt and like, you know, all those things that a flower goes through. So that's how I want to look at the stories. So basically, I'm going to start, I'm not going to go in like an order or anything necessarily, but I'm trying to think where to start. I would say that about 4 years ago is when everything really started to change. Hi, Kaylee. So I was married. I had 5 kids and one stepdaughter, and the other one was my ex's daughter. Okay, she lived with us too. And okay, so anyway, I have been in several abusive relationships in the past. Okay, like I don't know, I'd have to count like. Okay, there was 3 before when I was married to my last husband. And the thing is this is how it started. I was very it's always been very important to me to listen to my intuition and follow it. Okay. And so, before I met him, I actually was like in love with a friend of mine, but he had a girlfriend, so I never said anything or did anything, right? And anyway, one day I met my ex-husband through this friend, and a lot of weird shit basically kept bringing us together. So I met him through my friend, right? Then randomly 2 months after that, I saw a homeless chick at my work at Health and Welfare. And I was like, I just feel like you should come live with me. And so I brought this girl home to sleep on my couch. And through her, I ran into my friend's friend again, like months later. And that's how and we started hanging out, and we were just friends. And then we started dating. And then weird stuff constantly pushed us together, like my car breaking down and I had to stay with him for the weekend. And then like me and my brother were going to get a house, and I was like, oh, you want to live with us? And he's like, no, that's too fast. And then all of a sudden all this chaos broke out at his house, and he had to hurry and find a place to live. I found a house like online with no address. And I was like, let's just drive and see if we see it. And I said, turn here, turn here, turn. And I led my husband at the time, well, he wasn't my husband, but led him right to the house that we ended up renting. And there was just a bunch of weird stuff like that. So that brought us together, okay? And our relationship was actually super perfect. We didn't even have a fight for the first 6 months till after we moved in together. And then when we did, I was like completely confused about it, right? And so anyway, because it was just really explosive and toxic, but anyway, I started to notice that drinking made it worse, and so I got paranoid about the drinking. Plus I grew up with an alcoholic and drug addict, and then was all these other abusive relationships. So just to make a long story short there. But anyway, so one day I was getting sick of the drinking because that's when like chaotic things would happen. One time when I was pregnant, I woke up and he was in the middle of a mountain off the side of the road with my car and his ex-wife. And I just drove over there and got him and brought him home. And then he really went off on me. And I wondered if I should stay with him or leave him. But the thing is, my intuition said stay. Even though logically, it didn't make any sense. I would love to trade readings, by the way. I'm telling my story right now just because I want to say some things, but yeah, I would definitely do that. You should send me a message. So anyway, my intuition said, no, don't go. And so I stayed, and there was more things, but not super intensely crazy. Well, they were intensely crazy, but not violent. Okay. But anyway, so in 2017, he kept drinking, and I was like, you know what? I just need to do what I want to do. I recognized that I was compromising myself to try and basically keep him from not doing anything that was causing chaos, okay? And so I was like, I need to get back in school. I need to get my master's degree. And because I was going to go to John F. Kennedy University online, get my master's degree in transformation and consciousness, because I already had a bachelor's in philosophy. And a week later, I had surgery on my foot, and the next day, something was off. Like, I could feel it. And he was gone that night, and I could tell something was not right. And so I called my friend, and I was like, I'm afraid that he's going to do something, like, to me. And I called my mom, and I said the same thing. And I called the police, which, what are they going to do? There's no proof of anything, right? Hi. And so my mom and those guys were just like, sleep with your phone under your butt. So that's what I did. I went to bed and slept with my phone under me. And I was attacked in the middle of the night. And I had foot surgery the day before, so I couldn't walk. And my left knee was sprained, and I had a 9-month-old baby laying next to me in the crib. And so I was on crutches. I had one sprained knee and my right foot, and he broke 2 phones while we were trying to call the police and all this stuff. And they didn't find him that night. He escaped before they got there, and then he went to the mental institution the next day. And yeah. And anyway, so there was that, and that kind of shook up my life. But I found out all these things that I had no clue. Like, he was hiding so much that I didn't know. Okay. And one thing I want to mention too, because this is really important actually, that's a little off this story. That's the second time in my life that I've been attacked in my sleep with a 9-month-old baby laying next to me. And so those are 2 completely random events. And the reason why I bring it up is because these patterns are within us. Okay? And this is what I wanted to demonstrate to, like, how to change them. Because our world around us is a reflection of us. The events that happen in our life are a reflection of us. But I'm going to explain how. Okay? But anyway, so after that, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or go or whatever. And I was trying to pay attention to my intuition. And, anyway, so I did this, 3 weeks later. I didn't know. I was, he was doing the whole I want to stay type of thing. And, I ate a bunch of morning glory seeds. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but heavenly blue morning glory seeds. I ate a bunch of them. And I was able to see how my consciousness, my subconscious, brought that event into my life. And it was based on a belief, because we have this identity. Like 95, it doesn't reflect how we are. Like, it doesn't mean like, if someone slapped someone, that means you would have slapped someone. But it's a reflection of the pattern in you, yes. And this is what I want to help you understand. Because the thing is once you understand that, it makes such a huge, drastic difference, change in your life. But basically, let me tell you how. I actually was carrying guilt around for an earlier in my life event. Okay? And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of it. And what happened was I ate these seeds, okay? And I was like looking at him, and he was talking, and I think he was explaining to me how he felt or something like that. But I recognized what he was feeling was actually the same thing that I felt when I was doing something that I knew deep down was like wrong for me, right? But I couldn't stop. So it was the same as having an addiction, where you want to stop the addiction and you keep doing it. You feel like you can't. You keep doing it, right? And depending on what the level of what the addiction is, you can have a lot of guilt and shame around that. And you can carry it with you throughout your life. So then what you will do is you will basically attract, like subconsciously attract events in your life that will reflect the feeling that you are carrying around inside of you. So, this event actually, what it did is it caused me to recognize that I was carrying that. And I was able to actually understand exactly what he was feeling and forgive him for that right then. It was like 3 weeks later. And like, yeah, there was stuff that happened after that, a lot of stuff. But for that event, like I forgave him like completely. And I forgave myself. Like I let go of all that guilt that I was carrying around, that I had no clue I was carrying around for this event that happened like 12 years before. And and so what happens though in our lives is we sit there and we do things and we carry around all these feelings and patterns and assumptions, and we define ourselves that way. And then the world around us attracts things and events to us that reflects who we're defining ourselves as. And if we're defining ourselves as a victim, then we're going to continue to be a victim in life. And so if you think someone has done something to you, like they did it to you, even if like, it's really hard to explain because there's a difference between getting slapped, right? And being like, you slapped me, right? There's a difference. It's like a, it can be hard to explain to some people when they don't quite get it. For instance, if you hit your hip, this happens to me all the time, hit your hip on the corner of a counter. Do you get, well, maybe you do get mad at the counter, but I'm just saying, like, realistically, you don't, like, your feelings aren't hurt that the counter hit your hip, okay? Right? So what I am saying is that when other people do things to you, you know that you're not defining yourself as a victim when you think of them like a counter that hit your hip. When you realize that, like, their action, say it caused some kind of pain or whatever, even if they, like, beat you up, whatever. It's not because you're a victim, okay? It's just something that happened. And that happening was part of who you are becoming. But you're already there, actually. You already are what you're becoming, but you don't see it. Time makes us see it as a becoming, right? So it's like the becoming and the thing you're becoming is actually coexisting. And the thing is when you can start to see reality, like when you can start to see like all the things that happen in life, like in this way where it's not a personal attack on you. Yes, it is shadow work. It is. I just don't I don't use a lot of terms a lot of the times because they have boundaries. And I see things very flowy. But yes, it's the same thing. And but anyway, when you drop the victim mentality, you don't suffer. You can stop suffering in a lot of ways. I'm trying to think if there's just so much to that, like that it would just change so much of your world. And so after that, is there another term for shadow work? We could go. Well, a lot of shadow work tends to have like, it's basically subconscious, unconscious work, right? But the shadow tends to have like a negative connotation to it. Like it's causing you harm in some way. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to tell more, but I'm going to get into some more even deeper topics, I guess. So after that, okay, now I was able to forgive myself. Like it felt good to get that guilt off me, that even though I didn't know I had it, right? But and it felt good to forgive him. But if he was going to repeat the same patterns like drinking and stuff, I was diagnosed with PTSD because of it, because I was like so afraid, right? I was always looking for the next bad thing to happen, making sure the next bad thing wasn't going to happen. I felt like I turned psycho because of it, right? Because I was always like, I had to lock up my prescriptions because they were always stolen. Like my safe was broken into several times and stolen. And because I take Adderall for ADHD, so a lot of people want that. But anyway, just stuff like that. And eventually we ended it, okay? But this is where things started really getting weird. Like my life got weird. I mean, it was already weird. There's so much. Like I could tell you so many of the things that I've discovered with like visions and stuff. Well, this next part actually is one of those. So the day I decided to get a divorce, like actually get a divorce, I was scrolling on Facebook and I came across a tarot reading, which said I was going to get a divorce. And that was when I started obsessing over tarot readings, because I was like, what? How did they know? You know? And I started watching them on YouTube. Yeah, I have it pretty bad, actually. But I take Adderall for it. But anyway, so I started watching these tarot readings, and it was like they were reading my mind. And that was really tripping me out. And I was really paying attention to myself, like doing a lot of deep work, because I was so broken. Because honestly, like, even though things ended that way, like, our relationship when there wasn't anything going on it was so perfect, is how it seemed, right? Like, we really, really matched each other. We are really complementary. We have the same parenting style, even everything, like, even as co-parents now. Like, we don't have disagreements on how to raise the kids because we do it the same way. But anyway, I realized though, and this is going to sound really messed up, but I just recognize the messed up things in me. Like, honestly, like, people have a lot of messed up stuff in them. That's why the world's messed up. But if we can recognize things, okay, like, become aware. But anyway, so what I recognize though is that, like, I still loved this friend that I met him through, right? Because he was like my best friend all through my marriage. And anyway, yeah, like my best friend, I talk to him like every day almost. And anyway, I told him how I felt, not like trying to get with him or anything like that, but I felt like I needed to be honest with my life completely. And I felt like I was deceiving him by not letting him know. Yeah. And he basically kind of pushed me out of his life. And he was my best friend, like, almost like pretty much my only real friend. And so I had my ex-husband's whole family basically just dropped me, which happens a lot, I know. I was also raising my stepdaughter for 5 years, and then I was banned from seeing her. And then my ex-husband kept stealing from my house. I eventually got security cameras, and they caught him on camera. But one of the times, it was before we were completely divorced. And anyway, he picked a fight with my friend's dad, and then he got beat up. And then he went to the courts and told the courts on a emergency protection order judge that I had a rapist living with me and had a rapist go beat him up. And so they took my kids from me for 10 days until I could go to court and tell him that he was lying. And then I found out a month later I had a gonorrhea of the mouth, so he was cheating on me. So just a bunch of drama, okay, drama. And my life was falling apart. And anyway, so then I reconnected with one of my friends shortly after my best friend didn't want to really have anything to do with me. And then he let my husband go live with him for 2 months. But anyway, and then she dropped me too. And anyway, I think that was, oh yeah. And so I was in school, right, during this whole time. And because of the shortage in income, half the income, I was working 20 hours a week and going to school full time with the 5 kids. And then I had to up it to like full-time work. And then the COVID stuff came around and they didn't pay out my student loans. So I was $10,000 short. And so I couldn't afford my house and nobody wanted to help me. And so I decided to go homeless and camp for 2 months. But then the housing market got really, really, really crazy, ridiculous over here. And it still is. And I spent like $1,000 applying for places to move into and have not been able to move into a place for over a year, and I was living in hotels during the winter, which is still really expensive. I was paying about $2,000 a month, but the prices went up to $350 a night this summer. So again, I found myself with no place to go, and during this, so yeah, I'm just trying to show you the picture that, like, basically the way it looks, right? It's like, if you're an outsider looking in, it looks pretty chaotic and crazy. But I found myself a lot during those times really, really wanting to die, like very suicidal. But this is the thing. I was having all of this spiritual stuff that was happening too. You know how people start seeing the numbers, 1111, 222. Okay, I've been seeing those for like, I don't know, like a decade or something. Is a decade 10 years? 10 years, I don't know. That decade's 100, is it? Or that's a century. No, it's, I don't know. But anyway, what I started seeing was that I saw patterns in like everything around me. And so I would literally think something, and then it would be like on my phone, it would be on the street signs, it would be like, right? And then I'd see something on the phone and be like, oh, it means this event is going to happen. It means this event's going to happen, because I could see the pattern like repeat itself, like extend like waves out into my life. So I could see that as all this stuff was going on. And then I was having, I had visions too. My friend that I told you about, I actually had a vision where I was what you would call, what a lot of people would probably call God, because I was like the void, but I had like, I felt like powerful, right? Really powerful, like I could do anything, create anything kind of thing. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And then I watched myself become like a light being. And then I watched myself start splitting at the top of the head, right? And go down the middle. And I was watching myself and feeling myself as this was happening. So I like turned to look at myself, and I thought I was going to be looking at like a reflection of myself. And it was actually my friend that I told you about. So, and I had never heard of a twin flame before that happened. And then all of a sudden there was all this stuff about twin flames everywhere around me. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I saw. That's what I saw. So then I was like, you know, that whole thing about he's my twin flame, you know, and everything. Right? But then it was like, it seemed like everything was going completely the opposite way. I'm like, this is making no sense, because it's making so much sense that it makes no sense. And who am I? What am I? And what is this? Because reality is so bizarre. And if I like went to a psychiatrist, they would say I had schizophrenia, for real. Because I didn't know who I was, what was going on around me, because I knew so much of what was going on around me. Like I had more senses as to what was happening, and not enough understanding of what was happening. And so I could see my future. Like I could see that I was going to cause this horrible event in my life, and just watch myself do it without being able to stop myself. And so like I would know what I was going to do to cause this horrible thing to happen, and then the horrible thing would happen, and then I'd have a meltdown, and you know. And so this was like, it was like a combination of spiritual emergency and dark night of the soul. Let's just say that. There was a lot. But then, at some point, things started going like waving in the up direction, if that makes sense. Because I learned, see, what happens is I'll hear information and then more information comes to me, like what people call downloads. So I get these downloads and I understand all these concepts and things that I've never heard of. I don't know the names for them, but then I can a lot of times search and I find information about things that I'm thinking of that I've never heard of. And so I listen to information and I get more information. So, have you ever heard of Nasim Haramine? He's a physicist. He's a controversial physicist. Well, what I learned from him, his work, is that basically he came down to a formula where every single photon in the universe is like, basically like a black hole. It contains all the information. It has, don't ask me to explain the terms, okay? But it has all the information that the universe contains within the photon. And we're made up of photons that make up the atoms that make up the cells in the body. So if every single photon in me has all the information in me, okay, of the universe, that was mind-blowing for me, because then I started really realizing I have access to the entire universe. Okay? The next part. The Big Bang is still like a widely accepted theory, right? Well, if the Big Bang happened, then every photon in the universe also communicates with every photon in the universe, and it does it instantaneously. This is called quantum entanglement, okay? So meaning that, like, if I touch my nose, it affected you, because it affects the entire universe. Anything I do that affects a photon affects you. Well, then the other thing I learned was that I already knew about, actually, for like the last, I don't know, almost 20 years now, was that our consciousness affects where the photons are. So my consciousness is affecting the photons, is affecting the entire universe, and the entire universe is me, and I'm the universe. So what does that come down to? All the fucked up shit that I was going through, right, was me. And then I started, this really started hitting me at one point, where I actually cried for days. Because what I started realizing was, like, I was thinking about, like, world events, okay? And the things that go on in the world, like trafficking the people and stuff, and just like all these things. And I realized that everything that I did, like blowing my nose, was affecting that. Every thought I think, everything I believe was affecting that. Every time I thought a thought of negativity or harm on another person, I was doing it to the entire universe and myself. And thus, we have the world we live in. And And so I cried for days because I felt like what I would have imagined. Well, I'm not going to say, oh, this, I know it's the same. But the thing that came to my mind was Jesus, the story of Jesus suffering for the sins of the world. Because I felt responsible for everything in the world. Like, that's what I was feeling. And so, to me, like, it didn't, these things that we care about, like we tend to care about, especially like in the USA or the US, didn't matter in the big picture. And so that's why I started trying, like, even more, like, I just have really focused, tried to put my focus on doing like what I feel intuitively is my like purpose for existence, experiencing this point of existence in the universe. And for me, like, it's always been it's like hard to exactly say, because it's kind of like teaching people, but what I'm actually doing is trying to draw themselves out of themselves, like trying to get them to see themselves, because I know, at least this is, my knowing is my intuitive knowing, and if, based on my current understanding, that we're all part of this magnificent consciousness, existence, universe, whatever. Okay? And that if I'm one more thing I forgot to tell you. The other thing what that I had learned was that about radio waves and how we pick up signals in the universe, in the in the whatever. I like how we tune in, right? How it works, how like you hear music or whatever over the radio. The signal that's sent out matches the signal that comes in. And so, like, we're sending out these signals. And there's this guy he's a biologist. His name is Rupert Sheldrake. And I love him too. His books are so good. But anyway, he talks a lot about this. He calls it the morphogenetic field, where he says it's habitual. So we have these habitual waves going out, and then they're matching habitual waves coming in, and that's what we see. That's what we physically see. That's us assuming the point where the photons are located in our reality, in our world. Okay? And so it's just that we are so mostly unaware of what we're doing. And so but then at the same time, it's like we have these disasters, we have these world problems, and some of us try and ignore it, some of us just want to change it, right? And I've always been one of those that wanted to change it. I was actually raised Mormon, LDS, and we were taught when I was a kid that, like, Jesus was going to return to the earth and we'd live in this, like, paradise, like the Garden of Eden. And I'm not LDS or Mormon anymore. I'm not any religion. But the idea of, like, peace, living in a peaceful society and harmony and bringing out the best in people has always been, like, my dream. Okay? Like, that's what I want. And like, for me, when I was younger, I was so determined to be what I needed to be to get Jesus here. That's like what I thought I was gonna do. And I was like, I gotta teach everybody how to be like that so that it will happen. And so that's where my obsession into everything that I'm into came from. And so as all of these things that have been happening in my life that I've been telling you about, what I've come to realize, like especially just even over the last few weeks, okay? These things, being abused and all this stuff, I mean, like, I even made myself love someone who raped me. Like, and I actually do love him, like, as a person. I'm still in his life. And I'm not saying that's what everybody needs to do or anything like that. I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do. But all those things that happened to me were a necessity for me to be the person that I was dreaming that I was as a kid. Because what was my goal? Everybody's got different goals or dreams, things they're like super passionate about or whatever. Mine was I wanted to be like Jesus when I was a kid. I was like, oh, if I'm going to live in this world, I have to be like that. That's what I have to be like. And so, like, I obsessed over what that meant. And what I've learned in being homeless. And I tell my mom, she's a real warrior. And, I'll just be like, Mom, nice to meet you too, Ashley. I'll be like, Mom, I was like, think about it. Because she's super LDS Mormon still. And I'm like, think about it, Mom. I was like, Jesus said to be like the lilies of the field. He said not to worry about what you're going to eat and what you're going to drink tomorrow, what to clothe yourself with. He said, don't save your life. I was like, those who save their lives will die. And that's really what I feel like I've been doing. And I know there's like so much that I have to, I know there's more. I'm not saying I'm there. No. I mean, I am there in a way because it's all now. That's whole nother topic. But anyway, what I'm saying is that, like, I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know how I didn't know how I was going to do any of this. My kids, like, where are they going to stay? What's going to happen? I don't know. And so I decided I was going to just go with the flow of now. And like pay attention to now what I can do, what's available for me to do right in this moment. And then look for the beauty of this moment. Like, what opportunity is right now giving me? And so that's what I've been doing. And it's like really changed my whole perspective on, like, it's changed how I feel. Like, I feel good. I'm not sad. Like, I'm not. I would say that I really feel non-attached, which is like concept, especially like in Eastern religions and stuff, like of attaining. And the thing is when something comes up that causes me to be upset in some way, actually what I do is I hold back and I pay attention. Because I'm like, why am I upset? What is it? Why am I upset? Because the reason why that event happened in the first place is so that my upsetness that was in me would come out for me to look at. Because when I can look at it, I can choose to see that I am something more in that moment. Does anyone have any questions or anything for me right now? I've been going on for a while. I might get off right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do any more tarot readings. I might do some later, but that's another thing too. It's like with the tarot readings, I just have so much stuff, I guess. There's so much. There's so much. It's like there's so much information in my head. The tarot readings, the way that I understand them too to work is basically, like I told you earlier, I see patterns in everything. Because it's all just a pattern of you. So like the cards are a pattern of me. They're a pattern of the people in front of me because the people in front of me are a pattern of me. It's just, can you recognize the pattern? And people start recognizing the pattern usually with numbers. That's really popular. Like, I mean, a lot of people do it nowadays, is they see, oh, the angel numbers. And that's one thing. There's a lot more tarot readers, it seems. At least people are open about it, I guess, than what I used to notice. But even like what people say are angels, demons, guides, spirit guides, ghosts, even like all of that stuff is, to me, it's the same thing. It's a pattern of you too. It's a pattern based on your assumptions of what's real, because everything has like it exists in basically a wave of probability, and consciousness is deciding how it forms. And so I typically am not talking about spirit guides and stuff because I just have a different understanding of it. Like it's just, yeah, I don't have anything. It's just kind of like a non-thing to me, but it's the same thing with like UFOs and stuff, and a lot of phenomenon people talk about. It's like I used to see UFOs all the time, like all the time, and I got really scared, actually. I got scared from looking for them when I was 18. I stopped looking for them. Good morning! The Netherlands. But it's all patterns of you. It's just if you can recognize a pattern. And I think it's interesting, too, that IQ tests are highly based on patterns. Pattern recognition. Did you? Yeah, I used to see them like all the time. From the age of 14 to 18, I saw them all the time. And basically, that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's why I think we discover new creatures and stuff too, is because we find these new things as we open up our consciousness to the possibility of new things. So, what kind of new things do you want to see in your world? And where we put our focus is where what we're going to find. If you're constantly looking for some conspiracy theory that's going on that is something that you wouldn't want in your world, you're going to bring in what you wouldn't want in your world. It has nothing to do with whether or not it actually exists or not, because every possibility exists in a realm, like layers of reality. So, and when you ask for answers to a question, you get answers to a question. So if we start asking like regular questions, or I mean, not regular questions, questions of things that we want to see, experience, bring in, we'll see more of that. Nice. Yeah, see, I don't have a name for what I believe or anything. I just continuously continue to understand as I go and just keep going. I mean, that's kind of how I ended up leaving the Mormon church, because I was obsessed with learning everything, every single like detail about things that were like way out there. I even read the locked books in the cases at the Institute building when I was in college, because I just wanted to know every little weird detail. And there was weird stuff in there, but the way my mind works, like Joseph Smith talking about people on the moon, or was it Brigham Young? I think it was Brigham Young. To me, that was not weird. I mean, it was weird as in like there wasn't other people doing it. But to me, you want to know what immediately came to my mind? And this was like 20 years ago, okay? Um, yeah, the thing that came to my mind was, oh, he was just seeing another layer of reality. That's literally just like what I thought. And so it wasn't weird. And then I've also read all these other texts from all these other religions. There's weird stuff in every religion. They're all weird. But because they're all weird, they're not weird. And the thing is I also read this book on this guy that did Joseph McMonigal, that was a remote viewer for the military in their like original project. I forgot what's the name of it. But anyway, when he was doing the remote viewing, like regularly for the military, he started seeing little dragons running around his house and tall alien guys and stuff like that. And it's not weird, actually. Like, it's weird to people who don't like learn about that stuff, but it's not like, oh, this is only him. No, it's not. And a lot of times I've actually, like, when I've done psychedelics, I've seen a lot of things like that. I've seen demons and everything. But you were scared to be a psyche, or you mean psychotic? Is that what you meant? Or very in your head? Yeah, that's the thing, is like one of the things I said earlier before you got on here was that if I were to tell all the things I've seen and the things I believe and stuff to like a psychiatrist or something, Psycho. Yeah, there's no doubt that, like, some of them would diagnose me with schizophrenia for sure. But, not with the paranoia, though. Because that's the difference, I think, is because, I like that question. What can you do to subconsciously attract good things into your life? Here's a good starter, okay? Because that's basically what I've been trying to learn and figure out this whole time, and I've learned a lot. It's all about seeing. So, when something happens in your life, like every single moment of your life, okay? Ask yourself questions and see it different if it's not something that you're looking for to experience. So let me give you an example so I can explain this better. Say something in your life comes up. Like the other day, I actually had someone send me like pages of texts just telling me what a horrible person they thought I was, okay? And they were hitting on things that were triggers for me. And so it stung. But when it stung, I was like, whoa, why does that sting? Why does that hurt? Instead of getting mad at them, like instead of attacking them or getting mad or saying anything to them, I immediately turned to myself and said, why does that hurt? Because the reason why that event happened to me was because I had that hurt in me that needed to come out. And the reason why they come up and come out is so that we can pay attention to them and then give the feedback to the universe. It's like saying, oh, that's not quite right, and molding it, like molding the pattern. So what I did was I was like, oh, it's because I partially do feel like a bad mom because I haven't got to spend much time with my kids lately, and I was thinking earlier today, oh, I should spend more quality time with them, and I kind of had this feeling of like guilt come up in me, and then I was like, oh, okay, when I'm done working, I'll spend more quality time with them. And then later that night, she attacked me saying I was a horrible mom because I felt that feeling of guilt earlier, and I needed to change that and say, no, son, you're not a horrible mom. Like, you're doing the best you can. You're doing everything that you can with what you have available. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't need to feel guilty about that. And then I was like, oh, she's saying that because she feels like that. That's how she's seeing herself. Because she's trying to put me below what she feels. Like what she's telling her, the stories that she's telling herself about herself. And trying to make me feel less than her. And so then I realized that, oh man, she's feeling all those things. And then I had like this compassion for her. And I realized that like every attack from someone like that, they're exposing how they see themselves, what they think about themselves, how they feel about themselves. And that attacks on me are actually not personal. They're only personal if I take it personal, and I'm only taking it personal if I have something in there. Did you? Yeah, me and my mom, she was, I could almost say she was like my enemy most of my life. That's how our relationship went. But I am seeing it very differently now. Yeah, that's how it was with me and my mom too. And me and my dad were like best friends, but he was addicted to alcohol and drugs really bad. Yeah. I'm seeing it very differently because like She had to play that role. It was a necessity for me to be and see how I see now. Oh, by the way, my name is Sonia too. I don't know if you knew that. That's my real name. It's spelt with a Y though. It means wisdom. Really? You and your mother do? It's funny because actually I look a lot like my mom too. All right, well, I think I'm probably going to get off now though because it's like midnight over here. Yeah. See, I feel like me and my mom, see, my mom is very much, she tries to control everything in her outer world. And I want to control none of it and be okay. And so we clash. But I see it, yeah, I have a very different like view on it now. Yeah, it was nice meeting you too. Yeah, and thank you guys. Thank you everyone who like listened. I actually really enjoyed doing that. Because that's the stuff that's like really important to me, is to help people be able to see the things that I can see. And it's not like, oh, I think you have to do it my way. It's just I want to share it, you know? I want to help you see you, basically. Help you bring you up. I'm in Idaho in the US. And I've never been out of the country, but I would love to be out of the country. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to sleep. So have a good night, guys. You're welcome.